Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. Downey. As you can see, I've got my scrubs on and my stethoscope on and my blood pressure cuff, just so you guys know I'm a doctor. Actually, this is really uncomfortable. So today we're going to discuss whether Winstrol is better than testosterone. So obviously the definition depends on, or it depends on how you define better in terms of health, gains, kind of depends what you're looking at. So we'll do an in-depth comparison and see how they compare and where one might outshine the other. So a lot of what I'm going to be referring to comes from this study called Contrasting Effects of Testosterone and Stanozolol on Serum Lipoprotein Levels. So they didn't just look at lipoprotein levels, those include things like that are related to your cholesterol. They actually looked at weight gain and things like that. And just for those who don't know, stanozolol is Winstrol. I did refer to this in my previous video where I looked at Winstrol only cycles, but I decided I'd go into detail and see how the two compared. So it was quite a small study. The sample size was at like 11, but they were 11 healthy individuals who went to the gym. They put the advertisement for the study in the gym. Previous PED history was not, was not teased out from the volunteers. But anyway, they're gym goers, so this is probably applicable for most of you. So in the study, they had two groups. One received 2 milligrams of stanozolol 3 times a day, so 6 milligrams, and they compared it to 200 milligrams of testosterone and enanthate weekly. So this dose of Winstrol is actually quite low because the normal dose used by bodybuilders is 25 to 100. So when using this or when applying this or extrapolating the data, just know that whatever effect it has will be probably worse or better in terms of weight gain and things or what you're looking at, depending on the dose. If you increase the dose, it will exacerbate those side effects. So they did this for 6 weeks, which is a tad unfair if they're comparing weight gain because testosterone and enanthate tends to only kick in around the 6th week, and that's when you make your gains. And then they did a washout period where they received no drug for 6 to 9 weeks, and then they swapped the compounds, so those who were receiving Winstrol first got testosterone and the other way around. So let's just look at the things that you might find interesting. So the weight gain. They didn't specify whether it was lean tissue, it was just total weight gain. So it could have been fat, who knows. And this was, again, slightly unfair because Winstrol acts a lot quicker because it's not bound to an ester, unlike testosterone. So 6 weeks is long enough for you to notice results from Winstrol, not so much with testosterone. But what was interesting was the weight gain was similar. However, Winstrol did result in much more weight gain, about 2.8 kilograms plus or minus 2.3 kilograms. So someone noticed only 0.5 kilogram change, whereas another noticed something like a 5 kilo change. And for testosterone, it was 2.5 kilograms plus or minus 2 kilograms. Then they did the washout period. They didn't note if weight was lost during that period, because again, they weren't really measuring this. This was kind of just a secondary variable to look at, or outcome, sorry. And after the washout period, then they swapped the compounds and they noticed there was weight gain, more so in the Winstrol group again. However, not as much as in the first time using the drug, which is interesting to note because everyone does note that after the first cycle they gain a lot, and then subsequent cycles they don't gain as much. So another interesting thing is, let's look at the suppression. So I'll put up the table and we'll try dissect this table. So in terms of testosterone, what was quite interesting was that first week, testosterone's obvious. Well, okay. Well, let's just get it out of the way. Testosterone obviously raised total testosterone levels in these individuals because it's exogenous testosterone, and that's picked up on the assays they used. But as you can see from Winstrol, there was a drastic reduction in testosterone levels from baseline to the first week. So initially it was 22.5 and it dropped to 13, and it then gradually dropped from there and kind of stabilized at around 11.1 as a total testosterone. So they did become hypogonadal, technically. Or it's kind of in that gray area because hypogonadal is defined as anything less than 8, but between 8 and 12 can sometimes be used to diagnose hypogonadism. So this is a different units that they use these in the UK and South Africa and stuff. So this suppression obviously could cause a problem because with the lack of testosterone, you get the lack of libido and sexual drive, and you lack estrogen because nothing is converting into estrogen, which means you won't maintain your sexual behavior. And if we look at the study done in rats, it was displayed in the study that exogenous testosterone was the only compound to maintain sexual behavior, which isn't surprising because testosterone itself maintains it, DHT does, and so does estrogen. So if we look at the gonadotropins, now we're looking at more of the pituitary. This was interesting because if we look at FSH and LH, this kind of indicates whether or not your pituitary is experiencing negative feedback, essentially, because if there's too much testosterone or estrogen, it starts lowering its FSH and LH. With Winstrol, there was only a tiny bit of a decrease in the values, as you can see. With so the S group, the luteinizing hormone dropped to about 7.5 from 10 at its lowest, and at 6 weeks it kind of recovered, and it was the same with FSH. So this would indicate that it's mildly suppressive, but not to the point where those values would be considered abnormal. They were still kind of in range. Whereas with testosterone was highly suppressive after the it was highly suppressive, which was noted in the 4th week. So after 4 weeks, there's quite a lot of shutdown or suppression. But obviously this was only at 6 milligrams of Winstrol, and suppression tends to be dose dependent and duration dependent. And 6 milligrams is not as much as most people would use, so you can expect more suppression if you use a higher dose. But it was just interesting to compare the two and see that testosterone at 200 milligrams a week was quite suppressive. In terms of health, for most this would be quite obvious. It would be testosterone's healthier than Winstrol because it's not C17 alpha alkylated or things like that. But there were no changes in liver enzymes, surprisingly. Or there were, but they were a mild increase, and it was transient in the Winstrol group, which is commonly seen. However, the problem came with lipids, so cholesterol and things. After the 6 weeks, HDL, which is your good cholesterol, decreased by 33% in the Winstrol group as compared to 9% in the testosterone group. And what was interesting was testosterone actually decreased LDL, the bad cholesterol, whereas Winstrol increased it by almost 30%. And remember, Winstrol is a potent oxidant, so there are probably higher levels of oxidized LDL, which is not great for things like atherosclerosis. So keep that in mind. So in summary from this article, we can see that Winstrol at 6 milligrams daily does appear to be more anabolic, although we don't know whether it's lean tissue or just total weight gain, than 200 milligrams of testosterone weekly. Again, diets were not controlled, so it's not the best indicator. But what was interesting is that, unlike testosterone, Winstrol was less suppressive to the pituitary, a testicular pituitary axis. So whilst it did suppress testosterone, it did not suppress FSH and LH to a great degree. But again, the fact that it did suppress testosterone means you will probably experience side effects of testicular testosterone deficiency and estrogen deficiency, which was noted after the first week of Winstrol use. So keep that in mind. You can experience these symptoms early on, and this is just 6 milligrams, a lot less than what most people use. And again, it could be more suppressive to the pituitary if you used a higher dose. And in terms of health, testosterone was obviously more healthy than Winstrol. Winstrol did skew lipids and resulted in only a transient elevation of liver enzymes. So is Winstrol better or testosterone better? Again, it depends what you mean by better. In terms of weight gain, Winstrol was better. In terms of suppression to the pituitary, Winstrol was better, but not suppression to total testosterone levels. And it skews health markers, so it's not better in that context. So it really depends what you are looking at and what you're looking to achieve. So I hope that was insightful for you. If you did enjoy this video, leave a like, comment, let me know what you think about this comparison, and I'll see you in the next video.